bruh, I turned it off and walked away. Because I just couldn't. Welcome everybody to the Lovecraft Country Season 1 Episode 6 Spoiler Chat. But before we get into the episode at all, I need to clear up a few things. So first, if you're new to the page and you're just seeing my Lovecraft Country videos, please subscribe to the page on YouTube. Please follow the page on Facebook. Share the posts. Comment on the post. Please let me know where you're thinking, where you're at, what's going on with you as far as you and this show is concerned. But before we talk about the show at all, I need to get some things clear. I think that I've been burning people up on the interwebs about my views on the show. And I think that my views are being slightly misconstrued. So people think that I don't like the sex scenes that are in the show. Now, in truth, I would rather them not be there, yes. But do I find them acceptable when they help move the story along? Yes. And here's what I mean. So I had a commenter on Facebook who thought that I was upset about the gore and the sex that is in these shows. And believe me, I do have lots of opinions on the use of sex in TV shows and movies. I did a very long, probably very boring, very much outdated video that I will link, where I talked about why they use sex the way they do in shows and also how I feel about it. Well, she shined a light on my lack of culture, I guess, as it relates to HBO shows. Like she mentioned The Sopranos, she mentioned Girls. I think of myself, Insecure. She mentioned True Blood, and like I think of Deadwood, like all these famous HBO shows, Game of Thrones. I've never seen any of those. So I guess what I'm saying is that I'm very much uninitiated to the way that HBO shows work, the way they run, how violent they are, how gory they are, how much sex occurs in them. I never knew. I just never watched one of those. When The Sopranos was out, I was in the street. I was living street life back then. So no, I didn't watch any of those. I always were into movies, and movies were kind of the only thing I watched. I didn't watch serialized television until relatively recently. Let's say the last 7-8 years. So forgive me if I come across as being judgmental. My outlook is basically summed up like this as it relates to sex, at least in these shows. I am one that I think that you can be modest about how you shoot it. You don't necessarily have to use nudity all the time. You definitely don't have to be full frontally nude in all the shots. And if there's a better way to shoot a scene, I'm always one that advocates for less nudity, less sex. Like, for example, with Tic and Letitia from last week's episode, as they walked to where they were walking, you could have faded to black and done. Or if you want to leave a little bit less to the imagination, you could have had her like take off the little corset thing. You know, butt cheeks was out, but who cares? Everybody got that. She could have took that thing off and then you could have cut. Like, however, whatever you want to do. But that's what they chose to do. I don't necessarily say it's great, but at the same time, I don't necessarily say like, oh, that's a horrible scene, you need to take it out. That's not my approach. You know, let them do what they want, but I will make an observation of it whenever it comes up. But anyway, the episode starts and things are going fine. I'm looking at it and I'm thinking to myself, this is a cool little episode. It feels real normal. Man, this speed dating is brutal. And the whole time I'm watching, I'm thinking, this is about 13 minutes of a good episode. And then you get to 13.2. Man, what the hell? I was thinking to myself, what in the Sam Hill am I looking at right now? It's like you get comfortable with this show and you think, oh, okay, I understand where it's going. And then they just like, let's turn it up to about 15 on a scale to 1 to 10. Like, oh my God, bro. When them tails and furry tails start coming out, I'm like, what is this person? Then the eyeballs came. I have a phobia of eye trauma. I don't do well with that, man. Whew, bruh. I turned it off and walked away. Because I just couldn't. But I was like, you know what? I've learned this show, you just have to shut up, watch it, and then everything will make sense. And I must say, through the exposition between the mother and the daughter characters, I'm like, first of all, the situation that we're talking about is the worst situation for the mother and the daughter. Like, bruh, the husband was trash, absolute trash, and picked a woman with a child so he could sleep with the child, and he knew the mother wouldn't say anything because she didn't want to be manless, because I guess that's a thing in Asian cultures. After getting over the tentacles and such, I was just like, man, this is a horrible, horrible situation. Horrible. It's crazy because for an episode where I'm talking about, clarifying the sex in the beginning part of this video, now you address the sex that occurred in the rest of this episode, and it's like, honestly, I kind of like the way it's shot, although I always feel like they show too much. Like, you don't need to show everything, but I felt like it was kind of elegant, like not horrible. Specifically, the scene with Atticus and his quote unquote first time, because later on you get the scene where like the tails came out again and she stuck him in the eyes and she started seeing his life. And I don't know if we were seeing past, present, or future. You don't know. I don't know. But when we talk about seeing the scene of him experiencing what he called his first time, I was like, this is shot in a different way. Because normally when you see one of these sex scenes in one of these shows, it focuses on the woman and the camera is on the woman. They want to show all the body parts. But this scene kind of focused on Tick and his reaction, and the guy did well. I very much enjoyed Atticus acting in that moment. It was very nice. Again, from a family focused type of mindset, I can never play this on TV. I can never play this on a screen bigger than my iPad. To be real, I wouldn't even be comfortable just having that much sex occur on the screen in my home. Just, it's too much. But again, adults, personal consumption, people who are familiar with the way HBO does things, because obviously I'm not affiliated, I'm not initiated, because all I've ever seen from HBO really is The Watchmen, which was excellent. Loved every minute of it. Want to watch the whole thing again whenever I get some time. It's too much. But for personal consumption, as an adult, and I can go hide away with my screen somewhere and watch this stuff, it's not horrible. It was done well, tasteful for the most part. And super weird, bro, because these tales, man, I feel like I just can't. I just can't deal with all this craziness, bro. Like, I be having to pause it and just take a step back sometime. With all that being said, I enjoyed the episode. I wonder what they're alluding to at the end with the shaman, and you're gonna see a bunch more deaths before your journey is complete. And it's like, so are we gonna come back to her? Because it don't look like, I saw the sneak preview for next week, it does not look like we're coming right back to that. So I don't know, but I'm intrigued and I'm still locked in. I don't know how many episodes we got left, but come back and see me for another one as I just talk about these episodes and how much they're freaking me out and making me uncomfortable. Enjoy yourself. Guard your heart. Come back and see me.